Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We have another recap coming at you. Uh, Pretty interesting week here. There was a lot of, I guess you could say, underdogs getting dubs here in these series. We'll get into it right now. In the American League, we had Houston versus Texas. Houston took two of three. That one's not really an underdog, but these next couple depends how you look at it. Boston and Kansas City. Boston took two of three. Uh, Angels and Yankees. The Angels take two of three and win their first series in the Bronx since 2017. Baltimore and Toronto. Toronto hangs on barely. They almost blew a 7-2 lead in the game three of that series.
Mhm.
Seattle and Detroit. Detroit almost sweeps Seattle, but Seattle wins on a walk-off in game three because of a missed diving catch in right field. And then the White Sox and Oakland, the White Sox finally snap their long losing streak. But Oakland took two of three anyways. In the National League, Philly played LA. Philly ended up taking two of three. It was a close series. The Dodgers kind of let some of those games go. San Francisco and Washington. San Francisco ends up taking three or four there. San Diego and Pittsburgh. Thought this was going to be uh, not as lopsided. I mean, they were really, really good games. Some into the extra innings,
Yep.
some blown late. But San Diego ends up sweeping. It's a tough blow for the Pirates. Milwaukee and Atlanta. Milwaukee sweeps the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves sit out of a playoff spot as we speak.
Mhm.
Cincinnati and Miami. Cincinnati ends up taking three of four. Last game of the series ends up going to extra innings, but the Marlins fall apart. Mets in Colorado. Mets end up taking two of three. No surprise there. Arizona and Cleveland. Arizona's been hot. They sweep the guards. We'll see
Yep.
how that impacts the Guardians going forward. Minnesota and Chicago. Chicago ends up taking two of three there. If I were a betting man and we both took Minnesota, I would have thought they could have won that series. I
Mhm.
believe Joe Ryan and Jorge Lopez pitched in that. So,
Yep.
and then Tampa Bay and St. Louis. St. Louis ends up taking the two of two from them. I go eight and seven on the week, while Blake goes 7-8. I game one game, but yeah. Which series stood out to you, uh, of these series that were like, wow, I'm kind of surprised with that one.
Yeah. I'm with you on the Pittsburgh. Obviously, they're in a wild card race with each other. It's obviously tough to get swept by any team that you're chasing, but I actually watched all three of that Philly and Dodgers series. It was on TV here in Canada. Really good series. As Schwarber, kind of went off three homers in game two there, and kind of took over that whole game by himself. Obviously, the story is the Chicago White Sox snapped their 21 game losing streak. I thought they were going to break the record, man. I really thought they were going to break the record for the most losses consecutive. But overall, pretty solid week of baseball. Yeah, didn't see the Angels beating the Yankees in the Bronx. That was pretty surprising, especially how they won game three. Kind of lopsided, to be honest. And yeah, I didn't really see the Jays beating Baltimore either. Baltimore's had the Jays number for quite some time, so it was good to see.
Yeah, Atlanta, I'm starting to kind of get worried a little bit. They haven't really been the same since Acuna went down. Then Albies went down too, and it's been a weird year for
Yeah,
them.
like I
But
just
hey,
feel like they needed one more bat at the deadline. Like
yeah,
one bat, like I don't know. I think if they could do it again, I think they would have added something more significant, right? They bring back Soler, obviously it's a pretty big move, but like getting Albies back will help for sure, but it'll be interesting to see kind of what goes on down the stretch with that team.
yeah. I mean, it could be one of those things too, though. They get hot at the right
Yeah.
time. Maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
that team that gets hot in September and is like, oh
Yep.
crap, here they come, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump into this week though. First up, we have the Cleveland and Minnesota playing each other in Minnesota. It's going to be a four-game series, a doubleheader makeup, I believe. It's going to be to be determined versus Ober, Cobb versus Varlin, Williams versus Woods Richardson, and to be determined versus Festa. That might be Cobb's season debut. I'm not sure.
It is, yeah.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, so they just acquired him at the deadline. I'm going to go ahead and go with Cleveland here. They did just get swept, but Minnesota and Kansas City still have an opportunity to win this division. Cleveland needs to take care of business here or not. If not, they're kind of in trouble. So, I'm gonna go ahead and go with Cleveland in this one.
Yeah, this is a big series. Minnesota's come into this one 3.5 games out of the division lead, and Guardians have lost 5 in a row. Like Guardians are kind of like what's kind of going on here? But they've been a pretty resilient, consistent team all series long. I am going to take Minnesota in this one, but it wouldn't surprise me if Cleveland kind of snapped out of it against Minnesota.
Alrighty, next up we have Baltimore taking on Tampa Bay. Both these teams are coming off of series losses. It's going to be Eflin versus Littell, Burns versus to be determined, and to be determined versus Burns. Um, yeah, I mean, I got Baltimore. I mean,
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, they traded away a bunch of guys at the deadline.
Mhm.
Um, Baltimore is what they almost came back and won that series today. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about them whatsoever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the O's in this one.
Yeah. Obviously, the O's, they don't lose consecutive series very often. And you got Eflin and Burns going in this series. Love my chances. Eflin, obviously, gets a start against his former team, so that'll be kind of interesting to see that cat and mouse game. But I will go Baltimore in this one.
Next up, we have Texas heading into New York to take on the Yankees. It'll be Bradford versus Rodon, Eovaldi versus Cole, and Heaney versus Stroman. The Yankees have been playing a little bit better of late, not great. Texas been waiting for them to get going. The AL West is still there. I mean, even the Angels are 8 games back in the division, which isn't that much. I mean, at this part of the season, like
Yeah,
Texas has a chance to go and win this division, but they got to go now. And it just hasn't happened. They just lost to Houston. Um, it looked promising. They won game one, but they almost
yeah,
got no hit in game two.
yeah,
But with that said, I am going to go ahead and take the Yankees. They are at home. Garrett Cole's on the mound. And then, obviously, Andrew Heaney and Bradford, I'm not feeling too great about. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Yanks in this one.
yeah. Yankees, winners of 7 of their last 10. Obviously, just lost the last two to the Angels, and it'll be interesting to see kind of where Texas is at when DeGrom comes back. Right, that's obviously the big guy they're getting back off the deadline. He's just started throwing to hitters just recently, so I would imagine um obviously next stepping point would be to go on a rehab assignment, right? And that's kind of like a big trade deadline acquisition would be getting a guy like DeGrom back at the top of that rotation. Obviously he'll probably be on innings limit, so I'm not sure how available he'll be coming off Tommy John. So yeah, I will go the Yankees here though. I think they win this series.
Yeah, before moving on, one note, they did just lose Max Scherzer, though. So,
True.
I mean, it's kind of a trade at this
Double-edged
point.
sword. Yeah.
Yeah. So next up, we have Oakland taking on Toronto. It'll be Spence versus Barrios, Beto versus Rodriguez, and Spears versus Bassett. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Oakland's, even though they just played the White Sox, they won 11 of their last 18.
Yeah.
Toronto has been playing better, I guess, since the deadline, since they've let the kids play.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna go with the A's in this one. I think there's a chance here. I don't like Toronto's offense very much. I mean, I don't like either of their offenses very much, but Oakland's just been a better team over the past month, so I'm just gonna go with the hot hand.
I'm just gonna read you a quick stat here that absolutely blew my mind today on Twitter. Players with 35 hits, 10 doubles, 10 homers, and 10 walks in a 20 game span in MLB modern era. Babe Ruth, Rogers Hornsby, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, and now Vlad Guerrero Jr. Um, what he is doing right now is insane. It's flashbacks to 2021 Vlad that we seen when he hit 48 home runs. And for a guy that had such a disastrous 2 months of the season like him, to turn it around and almost have 1,000 OPS right now for the season, it's awesome to see. Kind of getting worried about him early on in the season, but he's turned around his season dramatically. I will go the Jays here. Like I said, Oakland's been playing better as of late, and yeah, I will go the Jays.
All right, and rounding out the American League, we have Houston taking on Boston in Boston. This will be Blanco versus Hauk, Arrighetti versus TBD, and Brown versus Paxton. You know what? At times I've ridden the Red Sox. At times I've gone against the Red Sox.
Yep.
Houston got hot for a bit, but it feels like they're cooling off now, even though they just won 2 of 3 from Texas.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go ahead and go with Boston. They're at home in this series. There's just something brewing there. I just feel like the vibes are just a little higher with them. Tanner Houck's been really good this season. James Paxton back in a Red Sox uniform. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Red Sox
Yeah,
in this
and
one.
it's in Fenway too. They're a pretty good home team. So 1.5 games of a wild card. So the urgency is definitely going to be there. If you can't get up for a series like this, what are you doing, right? Your playoff hopes are on the line here, right? The last couple months of the season, and I think Boston wins this series as well.
Heading into the National League, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates heading to LA to take on the Dodgers. It'll be Keller versus Flaherty, Skeens versus Ryan, and Faulkner versus Glasnow. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Dodgers. I mean, they did just lose 2 or 3 to Phillies, but the Phillies are the best team in the National League.
Mhm.
Even though they had a little losing streak a couple of weeks ago. Um, and the Dodgers, you know, and I mean, the Pirates just got swept by San Diego.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are on the they're 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 getting in scary territory right now.
Yeah.
The Padres are 2.5 games back. The
Yep.
D-backs are what, right there with them, 3 games back.
I'll look right now for you.
At one point, they were 9 games up,
Two and a
in this
half
division.
up or 2.5 up on San Diego and 3.5 up on the Padres.
There it is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Dodgers gotta kind of be feeling some type of heat, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, they're going
I
to play a lot down the stretch too. Like a lot. Those three teams are going to play each other a lot. So somebody's going to
yeah.
be in a game. So yeah.
Freddie Freeman's back. That's good. I'm
Yeah.
glad to see that his, son's doing well. So,
Mhm.
I think Mookie Betts is on the horizon at some point here. I think he's
Yeah.
going on a rehab soon. So,
Yeah.
um,
I'm
you
going to
know,
go Pittsburgh in this series. I like that they got Keller and Skeens back to back. Obviously, like have you heard anything on Jared Jones? Like I haven't really seen anything. Like he hasn't pitched a game out of the All-Star break, which is kind of concerning that it could be like a longer term injury. I haven't really seen anything about that, but yeah, Pittsburgh, yeah, they're fighting right now. They just lost four in a row. They're 4.5 games out of that wild card spot, so like it's right there for them if they want to go out. And this is a big series for them. It's gonna be a tough place to play. Obviously, Flaherty's been lights out this year, and obviously you got to go up against Glasnow, so it'll be a tough series to win. But I think if they get some timely hits, they could win this series.
alrighty. Next up, we have the Reds versus the Brewers. It'll be Spears versus Savali, Martinez versus Myers, and Lodolo versus Ray. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Milwaukee Brewers. They just swept the Atlanta Braves, and they've been extremely consistent this year. I will say though, Cincinnati's only 3 games under 500 now, so
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe sneaky team to keep an eye on if they can get hot. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with Milwaukee for now. It just makes too much sense.
That whole division is just fascinating to watch because all four of those teams below the Brewers are all either 5 or less games back of the wild card. So really, the whole division's been actually a lot better than what people expected, I think. Some say that might be one of the worst divisions of baseball, right? I mean, it's been pretty bad as of late, but all four teams have been pretty competitive. Cincinnati's won 6 of the last time. I'm gonna go the Reds here. You got Lodolo and Martin's been okay. I wish they would have had a guy like Green or um like Green in this series, but they don't. But I still think Cincinnati could win, so I'm gonna go with them. They need to start racking some wins up.
All right. Next up, with the Padres taking on the Miami Marlins. It'll be in Miami. It'll be Perez versus Cabrera, Waldron versus Munoz, and Cease versus Meyer. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Padres. No surprise here. Miami's not a good team. They just traded away a lot of players,
Mhm.
including their franchise face, I guess, and Jazz Chisholm.
Mhm.
And San Diego is on a tear right now. So we go with the Pods here. No surprise. It should be fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Padres too. I honestly think if there is a threat to the Dodgers, it's the Padres. Like I think the Diamondbacks are good, and I think the Diamondbacks could make the wild card. But if there's a team that, if I was a Dodgers fan, I was like, who am I worried about? I'm worried about the Padres because the back end of that bullpen is disgusting. The best back end of the bullpen in the whole league. You get a lead after the seventh inning, it's probably good night, right? I mean, that's just the reality of what it is. Um, Tanner Scott had a tough outing against the Rockies. Gave up a home run to Stallings in a pretty high pressure situation. But the back end of the bullpen, I will take my chances with that 9 times out of 10. So I will go with the Padres.
Perfect. Next up, we have the Atlanta Braves versus the Colorado Rockies. It is in Colorado, so anything can happen. It'll be Holmes versus Gordon, Fried versus Quantrill, and to be determined versus Freeland. Gonna go with the Braves here. They just got swept. They're facing a team that is not good, but again, they are in Colorado, and that place, that's where the Rockies tend to get wins.
Some
So
crazy shit happens at Coors. Let's just put it that way.
yeah. So, but I am gonna go with the Braves here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Braves too. Like you said it off the top. I did not see the Atlanta Braves being out of a playoff spot in August. That wasn't on my bingo card. It's just been that kind of season for the offense. Pitching, obviously, you lose Strider at the start of the year, so they've had to battle a lot of adversity. They've had a lot of key injuries. Obviously, losing Strider and Acuna for the whole season. You lose Albies. You bring in Whit Merrifield. He's been okay in his absence. But I'm not going to write this team off. This team knows how to win. They have a proven track record of playing really well down lots of the stretches late in the season. So wouldn't be surprised if they bounce back and swept Colorado.
Alrighty. Next up, we have the Phillies versus the D-backs. Actually started tonight. It's a 4-game series. It will be Allard versus Montgomery, Wheeler versus Nelson, Nola versus Gallen, and Sanchez versus to be determined. Before we got on here, I saw that the Phillies were up 5-3. We always make our picks before the games.
Yep.
I went ahead and took the Phillies in this series. It's a rematch of the NLCS last year. So obviously the Phillies are gonna have a little bit of chip on the shoulder there. And they just have been playing, the most consistent ball out of any team in the National League. But Arizona's been extremely hot. So
Mhm.
this is a perfect time for these teams to match up. I don't know if the Phillies ended up winning when
Yeah,
you
they
give
won
your pick.
6-4. Phillies won
No, there it
six
is.
four. Yeah.
So Phillies are up 1-0 in this series. It is a 4-gamer, so realistically, we're probably looking at a potential split situation here.
hmm
But I would take, especially with Wheeler and Nola going, I was comfortable taking the Phillies to try to win 3 or 4 here.
Yeah, this matchup is loaded with pitching, right? Obviously, you have Montgomery, you got Wheeler, you got Nelson, you got Nola, Gallen, Sanchez. I think Schwallenbach might start that fourth game. I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, I'm gonna go Arizona.
Schallenbach, he's on
Huh?
he's on Atlanta.
Oh, pardon me,
Schallenbach.
not Schwallenbach. I'm thinking of a different guy. My bad. Um, yeah, I don't know why I said that. That's my bad. I'm gonna go Arizona here. I think Arizona. They've been playing hot, 3.5 out of the division lead, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. This team is winning a lot of close games. Closer by committee too. Seawald lost his job in the closer's role not long ago, so it's kind of been Ginkle, Seawald here and there. There's been other guys that have had odd save opportunities as well, and they're getting the job done. So obviously, they lost game one, but I think Arizona could win.
Alrighty. Heading in the interleague, we have the Detroit Tigers taking on the San Francisco Giants. It'll be to be determined versus Ray, to be determined versus Webb, and Montero versus Birdsong. Um, Obviously, you got Robbie Ray and you got Webb going in the series. Detroit's offense is not very good, so I am gonna go ahead and go with the Giants here. They're just an interesting team, right? I mean, they had that big offseason. They haven't really done much this season, and then they traded away some guys, kind of salary dumping. So, um, yeah, sucks to see how the season's played out, but I'm gonna take them in the series.
Yeah, I'm gonna go San Francisco as well. Detroit, it's just been disappointing, right? They just you keep waiting and waiting and waiting for those young players to step up and take a next step. And obviously, they got a great manager in AJ Hinch. But that's just the reality of where they're at. They're just not a very good team. So, yeah, I'll go San Francisco.
Next up, we have the Battle of Chicago and the Cubs versus the White Sox. This time around, it's going to be in the south side of Chicago, and it'll be Tyon versus Crochet and Steele versus Flexen. is anybody picking the White Sox at this point? I mean, they did just fire their manager, so maybe Grady Sizemore, the new
Yeah,
manager. I
that's
mean,
what's your thoughts on that, Quick? What's your thoughts on Grady Sizemore getting a little interim tag?
interesting to see. I mean, obviously, I mean, if you're 50, 60 games under 500,
Yeah,
you would expect to get fired, right?
yeah,
I was kind of surprised that they fired Charlie Montoyo as well, who has managerial experience. They could have easily just made him the manager for the rest of the year. Said they went with the guy that's never managed, and maybe if he does well enough, they hold on to him for the future, and maybe they want, ex-player type manager like that with some uh a name attached to his back, right? So
right. Yeah, obviously,
interesting.
like Grady Sizemore played the game extremely hard. Like he was a hard-nosed player, really good outfielder, knows what it takes to be on that field. And there hasn't really been too many ex players like from our era into the managerial position, right? So it's a different outlook for players. Obviously, the White Sox are the worst team in baseball. So every game's like a tryout for all these players and just to see if you can build something. But yeah, the fall for that core is it's been there's probably gonna be a documentary about it someday because it looked pretty promising at one point.
Next up, we have the Cardinals taking on the Royals. It'll be Mikolas versus Lorenzen and Palante versus Waka. I almost took the Cardinals in this series, and then I saw Miles Mikolas was pitching. So I'm not even trying to be that way. He's just been having a pretty tough year. So,
Yeah.
with that said, I am going to go with the Royals. It is a two-gamer. I could completely see a split here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to take the Royals in this one.
I'm gonna take the Royals as well. Royals have been pretty consistent team most of the year, and it'd be interesting to see if they can have enough gas left in the tank to get them over the finish line and make a wild card push. Right? That's obviously Bobby Witt's tearing the cover off the baseball, and he's played himself into MVP conversation. Probably not going to win it with what Aaron Judge is doing right now, but he's been extremely fun to watch.
Yep. Next up, we have the Mets taking on the Mariners. It'll be Quintana versus Miller, Manaea versus Gilbert, and Severino versus Castillo. Both these teams have kind of been playing the same type of baseball over the past month and a half. With that said, Seattle's starting pitching is unreal,
Mhm.
and the Mets offense isn't. And then second to that, it looks like the Mariners offense is starting to do a little bit better as of late.
Yep.
They walked off tonight. So maybe that sparks a little run there. It could.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna take
definitely.
the Mariners are at home as well. So with that, I'm gonna take the Mariners.
Yeah, that was a crazy comeback. You sent that to me on Twitter before we hopped on here. Bases clearing triple to win the game. Doesn't get much better than that with two outs. Justin Turner has had some big hits for them. Had a big grand slam. And Rosarena's fit right in with them. He's been really good for them as well. And obviously awaiting Julio Rodriguez to get back in that fold too. So I will go with Seattle as well.
And rounding things out, we have the Angels taking on the Nats. It'll be Anthony Rendon's return to Washington for the first time. That's because he doesn't play
Is he
very
on the
many
trip?
games.
Is he on the trip?
He got activated. He's
Oh,
playing.
he did?
Yeah, in New York. It'll be Soriano versus Parker, Canning versus Corbin, and Tubiaturman versus Gore. The Angels, they are now what 31 and 27 in the past 2 months.
Yeah.
They actually have the best record against 500 teams, which this isn't a 500 team that they're playing, but um, in the past month. So interesting. Neto has been going off. He's top 15 in the league in RBIs. Ohapi looks promising. It's going to be, he was ranked a top five catcher from Bleacher Report. And then Sean Newell is starting to kind of turn it around too. So the young core looks like they're starting to do things, especially without Mike Trout there out for the season. Interesting to see. And with that said, I'm gonna take my Angels in this one. I haven't been taking them too much lately, but they are going against the Nationals. Patrick Corbin's in this series as well. So again, not trying to be like that, but he's one of the worst pitchers in the league at this point. So
Yeah, I'm
we'll
going
see
to
what
take the
happens.
Halos as well. So obviously the Angels rocketed Chanuel up the minors last year. Do you think they're going to do the same with Dylan Moore this year? Kind of looks like he's on the kind of same track that Chanuel was on last year in the minors.
Yeah, Christian Moore. But
Or Christian Moore, sorry.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, we talk about service time and all that
Yeah,
stuff, the new
yeah,
CBA. To me, it would make more sense just to bring him up next year, out of the gate, and see what happens. Obviously, you can get extra draft pick compensation. They are in line if he wins the Rookie of the Year as a top three,
yeah.
finalist. He would still have that Rookie of Year eligibility next year, I guess technically if they brought him up this year. But with that said, I'm kind of torn. It's not the bat that needs to be developed. It's the glove. Obviously,
Right,
Ron Washington, the defensive wizard, is at the major league level though. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it just depends on what their road forward is, and I don't think the Angels really know that at this point, to be
right.
honest with you. So,
Yeah,
I'm sure they
but
will though.
to double off your point there, I mean the future up the middle, even with more in the pipeline, you got Neto up the middle, you got Ohapi back behind the plate, and obviously you got Trout in center field, for a few more years. So,
Maybe.
it's pretty promising up the middle, for the future. Shadywell over at first too. Adele took another step this year as well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with the future and kind of if they get aggressive and spend a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this one. In review, I have Cleveland, Baltimore, New York, Oakland, Boston, LA, Milwaukee, San Diego, Atlanta, Philly, San Francisco, Chicago, Kansas City, Seattle, and the Angels. While Blake has Minnesota, Baltimore, New York, Toronto, Boston, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, San Diego, Atlanta, Arizona, San Francisco, Chicago, Kansas City, Seattle, and LA. Yeah, we're over what 1,300 subs now.
Yep.
It's huge. I mean, we relaunched this channel at the beginning of the season with 100 subscribers, and just the growth that we've had this year has been tremendous, and we appreciate you guys for listening and watching. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Appreciate you guys. Later.